Finance can be messy, but don't worry. We clean it up with facts, fun, and maybe a little more sarcasm. Welcome to the Financial Sandbox. I'm Herb Alston. Let's get into it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for regular, real, raw financial talk in the sandbox. My guests today are Thomas Coffman and Melissa Croll. And we're going to get into one of the most interesting niche real estate and M&A sectors in America, the car wash industry. And I know you guys are probably thinking about a show on television on HBO, right, guys? Is it on HBO? Because I don't watch it. How much of that is real and how much that is fantasy? I don't know. But car wash, it's part real estate, it's part operating company, part subscription business, part private equity target, and part family business exit story. So there's a lot going on these days. Attlee, Realty, and Miracle have merged, and the combined company is now positioning itself as a deeper national advisory platform for car wash owners, buyers, investors, and operators. Publicly, the merger was framed as combining Miracle's advisory practice with Attlee's commercial real estate and car wash transaction experience and expertise. The combined firm operates under the Miracle brand. Miracle headquartered in Nashville and a continued Texas presence in McKinney and North Dallas, right?
Correct,
Melissa?
yes.
So let's start with the obvious question. Why merge? Why was this better than simply collaborating deal by deal? And I'll let Thomas start.
Sure. Yeah. And Herb, thank you so much for the opportunity to chat today. And I think Veronica Attlee and Melissa Croll here have created a remarkable name for themselves in the car wash business from their integrity and work ethic. It's really as simple as that. They do what they say they're going to do. They've created a remarkable reputation, and those are the people that we want to align with. Putting the relationships first and letting the rest kind of handle itself is the genesis of it. And so that's where we are today, and super excited and appreciative of the merger and where it is and where we're going with it.
Well, Thomas, I'm excited to have you on with Melissa. You probably saw the interview with Melissa a couple months ago. So having you both on after this new marriage is great, especially since Melissa just got married. Melissa, was the merger driven by client demand, geography, market share? Why the full advisory platform here? What's the benefit?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously we were in a growth mode, and Veronica and I have been building out our team, which we spoke about, kind of previously. And the merge just made sense. We were really only focused on Texas, and what Thomas has done with Miracle is phenomenal. I mean, he's known nationally, and Veronica and I had started out more on the development side. We were, looking for land, and we worked with a lot of people that were building car washes, and we worked with a lot of more like independent one-offs. Of course, we worked with some of the big guys, but what Thomas and Miracle were doing was more on the M&A side and multi-site, deals. And it just made sense for us to kind of combine those two and really kind of corner the market with all aspects.
Right. So, Thomas, what did Miracle have that Attlee needed? And I'm going to reverse that question to Melissa.
Well, I would say from a national scale, like Melissa had mentioned, from an advisory or M&A standpoint, it made sense. Now vice versa. And I'm stealing a little bit of Melissa's thunder here, but she's done such a remarkable job, and so has Veronica, in the nitty gritty when it comes to real estate and development and site selection and permitting, which has become a really relevant factor and maybe understated factor is permitting is getting more and more red tape, and it's more and more difficult. I know you had mentioned earlier when we had talked, Herb, that California is hard to get permits. It's just there's a lot of red tape, and especially some cities and municipalities still have a bad connotation of a car wash. And so where there is difficulty getting permits, having, over 50 people on our team that just solely focus on car washes has been really beneficial in pulling permits, helping our clients understand um, the ability to get through the cities before they exit. That's driven a lot in multiples. And we've also seen the flip side where it's, you can build a car wash anywhere in the Midwest, and permits are really easy to come by. And we've seen a negative reaction from EBITDA multiples on the exit.
So is part of what I'm hearing that Attlee's development skills really brought a needed or added tool to Miracle's toolbox?
I think so. I think more so than developing a car wash, it's understanding permits and how difficult those are to get, and navigating through the city on behalf of our clients to help them finish what they started before they exit.
So, Melissa, same question. What did Miracle bring to the table that you guys felt would really enhance your business?
Yeah, absolutely. I would think one of the biggest, I would say, things about Thomas that a lot of people know is he's the best networker I've ever seen. I mean, everybody in the industry knows Thomas, has heard of Thomas. He's constantly jet setting across the country, meeting with owners, and he's definitely pushed me. And I feel like I was kind of getting stagnant in what I was doing and the way I operated. And I've just learned a lot from Thomas. So for I think with Veronica and I both, kind of stepping outside of our comfort zone, trying new things and learning kind of the way he does things, and just really taking advantage of all of his network and who he knows. He's introduced us to so many groups, and hopefully we've done that for him as well. But Thomas's sole goal, I feel like, if you've ever seen him at a car wash trade show or a networking event, I mean, he touches every person in that room. I mean, it's amazing. And that's important in our business because we are, at the end of the day, a relationship type of business. And so if we're not getting out there and shaking people's hands and really getting to know our clients, making them feel comfortable with us, then what are we really doing? And I've never seen anybody better at that than Thomas. And then, of course, he's training his team to do the same. So it's rubbed off on us. And I think that's a really great thing that he's brought to our business. And, of course, if we want to talk about that, bringing the bigger deals as well. I mean, he's one of the most successful brokers I've ever seen. And to watch these deals he puts together and learn from him in that aspect is only going to help, myself grow as a broker.
So I got to say, hearing that from you, how large is your constant contact list? I think it's well over 50,000 people, isn't it?
I have about 50,000 people, and they do read it. So
you've got a great open rate, is what I hear. So
that's 50% usually when I send something out. So it works in our favor too. So we've got the marketing piece, so we can hit people via email, or we can hit them if we want to send Thomas, jet setting around to Hawaii. I know he's been there. He'll go to New York. Wherever we need him, he goes. Sometimes he gets to go to prettier places than others.
So, Thomas, you've completed, I think after I've read a lot about you, well over $1 billion in car wash related transactions. At that level, what does scale actually mean for you and your team? Is it more listings, better buyers, better data, better underwriting, better capital relationships? What happens here? What's next?
That's a great question, Herb. I think having the level of intentionality on our team with 50 plus people that really focus on car wash in this niche is important to give the same level of attention to someone that's selling for over $500 million or someone that's selling for $1 million, right? And so it is an incredible weapon that Melissa can serve clients when they're in tough situations. They are in situations where someone built across the street, or there's, no one ever knows the risk that you're going to encounter tomorrow or the next day or a year from now. And I can't tell you how many deals that Melissa has sold that were extremely difficult to sell. And it's when you talk about scale and the relationships, it really is important to take as much care of somebody that's in a bad situation and take care of the relationship than just because it's a big deal. And I can't tell you how well Melissa has done with that. The deals that are incredibly difficult to sell. You mentioned the constant contact and the 50,000 people or however many, and it really is funny. We joke, but at the same time, it's like these are relationships that Melissa and Veronica have built over tens of years, and they're hard to find. And so you can't just look at a list of however many car washes there are and say, hey, these guys are going to be the buyer, when Melissa has 50,000 people or so that you've never heard of that are in a position, whether it's a 1031, which you know better than anybody, that need to buy, or, look at an advantage of a car wash. And so you guys have done a remarkable job of facilitating 1031, understanding, opportunities from people that exit, whether it's a different business or sold real estate for, other places, and now they're looking to buy a car wash, right? And so that's a huge value that I think is overlooked, and Melissa is very humble about, is that she works really hard for their clients, and values the relationship, and doesn't just go through a list. She's got a 50,000 person list.
It's not just going through the motions. We're going to touch on 1031 exchange in a minute, but a lot of mergers sound good in the press release, but sort of fail in the hallway. What's take us in the back room? What's some of the hardest conversations that you've had, and to make sure that this works?
Man, that's such a good question. Well, me and Veronica Attlee are complete opposites when it comes to our partnership, and that's such a blessing, right? Is having a partner that sees the world a lot differently than you do. And so, when you're looking in the back room, and how do you handle conflict in a partnership? I couldn't ask for a better partner. I think the merger, or however you want to phrase it, is just a name for an incredible relationship and partnership that's been built over years and years. Her level of execution, Melissa's level of execution in areas where I'm extremely weak, have been one of the biggest blessings in my life.
So, Melissa, I'm not going to take the same question to you. I'm going to do it a little differently. Can a general real estate broker properly sell a car wash today? I mean, it's complicated. I've dealt, as you guys have talked about, I've dealt as a 1031 exchange specialist with sellers who are trying to figure out how to separate out the real estate, the buildings, the goodwill, the equipment. What's the difference, and what do you guys bring to the table that's different than XYZ real estate agent that says, hey, I'm going to sell this car wash for you?
Right. No, great question. And I will say, you wouldn't go to, a dentist to, get a heart transplant. So I think that having somebody that's an expert in the field, that's, it's not their first rodeo, is very important. And especially, we talk about a lot of times that I do deal with first time car wash buyers, and they have a lot of questions, a lot of hand holding. And so if, this was my first rodeo, and, and they're asking me questions of, hey, what do I do about credit card processing, this, that, and the other? And who do I need to go for insurance? I'm not doing them a great service if I don't have answers, and I don't have the experience in the connections to help them out. I've done some deals where I had to work with a broker that was a residential agent representing a car wash. And you can tell a difference. It ends up, we're the ones, running the deal, and no disrespect to them. They've got their real estate license. They're just trying to sell property, but selling a car wash is more than just selling a piece of property, or selling a business that comes with employees and, a lot of different moving parts. And so if they don't understand those moving parts, and especially even the moving parts of the contract, there's usually a lot of earnest money put up front. And if we're not, minding our P's and Q's, somebody could lose, thousands and thousands of dollars if you're not paying attention and servicing the client right. So when I first started, I followed Veronica on deals before I ever stepped, up to, really the plate to do it on my own. I wanted to make sure I understood the ins and outs. So I'm not saying that somebody couldn't do it without, obviously proper training, but it's just not as simple as, back when I used to sell residential, it's a totally different ball game. So I think our expertise in the space, our connections, constantly I have people asking me, hey, I need to get, a new, whatever it might be, the new conveyor, who do I call? Where do I go? And so I think that all of those things are important, that we have those connections and we can kind of just guide them through the process, and they can lean on us whenever they might be, a little bit fearful or just unsure.
So I'm going to take that one step further to both of you, because you've both seen a seller who has a great relationship with a real estate agent or another broker. Where do you believe the average seller leaves money on the table when they don't get an expert who really understands all aspects of the car wash business to really best represent them?
I would say probably the most glaring thing is who's the best fit for them. Is if we do run into people a lot, whether it's in Colorado or Michigan or Washington or wherever it is, that that maybe lack the expertise or the relationship to find the best fit for their exit or partnership if they're going to stay on and operate, who's going to be the best fit for their culture, and having options and our ability to kind of expedite that process, hearing what the client needs, what's important to them, and matching them with the right person. I'd say that's probably one of the most important things in terms of value that they might leave on the table. I think the second thing would be kind of what Melissa mentioned in terms of just the specifics in the car wash business. When it comes down to, due diligence, quality of earnings, what high level of detail that's been collected. I think Veronica's 20 plus years, Melissa probably 10. Amongst our team of people and experience, there's probably 50 plus years of at least that have different case studies or comps or due diligence requests, that making that streamlined and efficient and certainty of close, not just the value that they might leave on the table, but how to get the right answer and save money in the due diligence process, I think is also something that might be overlooked as well.
What about you, Melissa? Do you see that a seller may leave money on the table for lack of understanding by going with a different broker, someone who doesn't specialize in this space? What do you see as a tangible left on the table?
Sure. Yeah.
Situation?
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback off of kind of what Thomas said, but I personally get emails constantly and phone calls from appraisers not doing my deals, doing other deals because they see that we've traded so many car washes and they need our comps. And they're like, hey, we need to know what is sold. And I happily give them because I know that that's only going to help our our car washes show what they're actually worth. There are a lot of private deals, and whenever they're trying to get a car wash approved, they may not know of some of the pricing that's actually been happening because we don't always report our deals. But if it's going to help, obviously get something to show the value, we want to do that. And even when I'm the listing agent, which I am a lot, I'll have the appraiser, they'll call me direct and say, hey, send me a list of comps for your property. And I happily do that because that's only going to show the added value. So I think that, if you were using, let's just say, a residential agent again, they're not going to know about these private comps and these things that are actually going to push this deal, because what if it appraises low? Guess what? They're going to renegotiate the price and it's not going to be in favor of the seller. So if we're representing sellers, which we try to do a lot, we're doing our sellers a disservice if we don't know the industry, we don't know what's sold. So I think that's really important. And I will say another little thing that might sound like minute, but even understanding that there are very integral parts of our business. So for instance, I was told a story from somebody that I was going to represent on a buy side, and he had done a deal with another broker, and the broker wasn't necessarily in the car wash space, and they closed. Well, this broker didn't realize that there could be gift cards sold, and the guy closes, and then guess what? There was it was like $50,000 worth of gift cards. So guess what? Those people are going to come, try and get their reimbursement and get their gift cards. So you got to we want to know how much is out there that's owed. Are there, is there $50,000-$100,000 worth of gift cards out there because that should be taken account for whenever you're negotiating price and things like that. So just a lot of details that go into what we do.
Right. Wow. So where's the business now? I mean, I think 2022 seemed to be the peak of sales of car wash. We're at 2026 and 2025. Rates jumped, and it slowed every real estate tangent market down. Where's the market today, Melissa?
I will say it was definitely busier. Obviously, the times that you spoke of, there was a lot of new PE money that had flooded into our space. Around that time, the Wall Street Journal had covered car wash heavily. Everybody was getting really excited. They thought if they, you build it, they will come. And, some people will ask about oversaturation. People got really excited. A lot of car washes, started being built. And so you do have to be careful. When we're looking for site selection and things like that, we're paying attention to the market. We're paying attention to the permitting side and what's coming, because the last thing we want to do is, sell a piece of dirt and then a car wash comes in across the street, because that's going to affect their bottom number. And I think Thomas would have a little bit of a better insight on the industry as a whole, if I could kind of pass it off to him.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I'm going to let you do that, but I also want to ask Thomas at the same time, what added benefits are there? Are there some bolt-on acquisitions, or is it the more varied deal structures that's changing this market? What's happening?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I think a lot of people would say is the big buyers are a lot more disciplined. They've learned from the oversaturation. They've learned from other people that have made mistakes. And, I think conveyor per population ratio metric is something that a lot of people pay attention to, is like there's one conveyor per 20,000 people versus one conveyor per 200,000 people. And so I think buyers have gotten a lot smarter in a good way. I think the business industry has evolved with a lot more sophistication. On the flip side, I think that there are markets that are really hot, where it's a great time to be a seller and sell your wash. But it is very fractional, right? It's not a, you've got every strategic car wash buying in every market in the country, right? It's very selective. We've got to be very disciplined in what we take on, and honest with integrity on the people that, hey, look, it makes more sense to just take the cash flow. In these markets, you've got great cash flow. There's not a great exit multiple. And on the flip side, an hour away, you might have double the EBITDA multiple, and so it's very, very selective in terms of where you are on a map. And so the industry has evolved in a really great way. We're really excited about where it's heading in consolidation. It is a great time to be a car wash seller in several places, but there are also places where it's not a great place to be a car wash seller.
So you just mentioned a couple things I want to go back to. 20,000 versus 200,000, a conveyor. What are you talking about? Are you talking about population, or are you talking about number of cars going through on a monthly, annual basis?
Yeah, for sure. So I think if there's one conveyor, let's define that as a car wash that's over a tunnel that's over 80 feet. Not necessarily an in-bay automatic or a self-serve, but let's say it's a true conveyor with point of sale stations and an express model. And there's a population of 20,000 people per that conveyor in the state of Arizona or in Phoenix specifically. But in markets in the Northeast or in markets where it's really hard to get permits, there's one car wash or conveyor per 200,000 people.
Sure.
Just the numbers would suggest, and the data that we have will prove that those conveyors are going to do a lot more revenue. And so, or, they have the ability to get to a certain level of revenue. And so, so I think that those kind of metrics, the industry has evolved in terms of data, resources to get the data, seasonality. If there's a lot of rain in a market and a bad conveyor per population ratio, well, the math would probably tell you it's not going to do a lot of volume. And so as opposed to the white gold and a lot of snow, or opposed to the green gold and a lot of pollen. And so there are a lot of factors: seasonality, conveyor per population ratio, saturation, all the things that you mentioned, Herb. And I think a lot of guys have gotten a lot smarter, and the multiples in those markets reflect that.
So the other thing you did was throw out an acronym, and the acronym you threw out was EBITDA, which stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So what does that mean in the car wash space? And I'm also going to ask two questions at the same time about what should someone have as a multiple to that EBITDA when it comes to sales. What's the average? How's that defined?
That's also a great question. I think it depends on how the multiple will depend on a couple factors. One is how much EBITDA and what market they're in, really, and what are the barriers to entry? What does the supply look like, and what is the demand for that market? That's going to really be some of the and what is barriers to entry. What is the risk of competition coming in? And so those are defensible things to take into consideration with your EBITDA multiple. Is there upside potential? What is the ticket price? What are the things that someone can look at and say this is worth a high EBITDA multiple? I think when you look at replacement cost to build a car wash, let's say, depending on the market in real estate, let's say it's $6 million as a rough number, plus or minus. Is your EBITDA multiple going to cover that cost in some situations? And the answer is probably in some scenarios, no, right? And so why would you sell it for a loss? And so even if it's 10 times or 15 times, if you're not covering your costs or making a great profit, why are you going to sell it? And so where then there's also extreme scenarios, which is, where people make great and tons of profit, right? And so there's tons of blue sky. And so, having real conversations with these operators and owners to say, hey, look, like, here are your goals. Here's the reality of the situation. Being, hyper selective and truthful about, hey, this is where you're at. This is where we think you'll be. This makes a lot of sense, where more times than not, we tell them it's probably better to keep your cash flow. Let's introduce you to the right people. Like Melissa said, here's an equipment manufacturer or point of sale provider, or here's a management team that can help you operate. Those are things that we typically do more than not because of the factors we mentioned on the supply and demand and barriers to entry. And so the clients that we represent on the sell side typically are the ones that have the stars that are aligning, and it's the right time and they're at the right place.
So what's more valuable? Is it a great location with mediocre operations, or is it strong operations in a B+ location, Melissa?
So, I mean, in a way, both those scenarios could work actually. You know, since I am a real estate background, I always say location, location, location. You know, you've got to have that good spot. And, if you're, you might think that you're getting great visibility because you're off a highway, but guess what? People are going, sometimes 80, 90 miles per hour on a highway. They're not going to turn around and get their car washed. So we want to make sure that car wash is, when we're selling it helps if it's in a nice location. Now, yes, of course, we're going to help people sell that aren't the ideal situation as well.
Right.
But if you think about, when you're going to your car wash, it is kind of an impulse buy for most people. And so if we're on the line of traffic, say to a big box like a Walmart or a HEB or something along those lines, people are more apt to stop because they're just running around their daily, errands, and then there's a car wash, so they could pull in easily and get their car washed. Speed limit's important. You don't want, like I mentioned about the highway, ingress, egress. Can they get to the car wash? Is it easy to turn into? So location can be a big factor. But then I've also seen washes that were maybe a little bit in the back corner, where if I were doing the site selection like we used to do, as our bread and butter, I would have not maybe selected that site, but maybe they've just really figured out the marketing game and they've really cornered that market. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you can still bring in people even if you're a little bit hidden, if you're doing the proper things. And once you get those people there, you obviously want to be selling the memberships and trying to keep that retention. But I think that can definitely help. And, partnering up with maybe a oil change, company that's down the road and exchanging business with them. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do. So in that aspect, maybe location doesn't become the most important because they're utilizing other methods to drive sales.
So, Thomas, are sellers emotionally anchored to 2021 pricing? I mean, in real estate, how many times do we hear people say, if I sold this building in 2020 or 2021 during COVID, I would have gotten X, right?
Yeah.
Are they
That's
still
so
there?
funny.
Our struggle.
Yeah, right. What do they say? You can be early to the party or you can be late, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so there I think some of the things that you mentioned with interest rates and just what's brought us, to this point today. I think the bid ask gap has suppressed in a way that's more in line. And there are scenarios where it's a win-win for a buyer to pay a great multiple, right? And so those are the ones where we want to focus the most attention is how can we create a win-win scenario where it may not be that, the heyday, right? But you can still make a great payday, right? So it's like you're and there's upside for the buyer. And so those are things with, a lot of depth and time and blood, sweat, and tears in terms of what makes a car wash successful. I think is where we can create that margin for the buyer, to also have a win-win scenario where they walk into a deal, the seller gets a great profit, they get a great, upside potential, whether they've got 50 locations in the market and this guy has one, or, and then the seller's, regional manager or son or whoever's been there putting in all the blood, sweat, and tears from an emotional standpoint, maybe gets a much greater opportunity to be a part of a bigger company that's got 50 or however many locations. And so really going into the extreme level of detail of understanding, okay, this makes sense versus, hey, we think this is probably worth holding on to, enjoying the cash flow. You do have an emotional attachment to 2022, 2021 numbers, right? Like, how about you just enjoy your car wash?
Melissa?
Yeah, no, I would have to agree with that. You saw I giggled when you mentioned that. I have that conversation more often than I would like to admit, because and especially somebody who's really put, like you said, their blood, sweat, and tears into these car washes, and this could be their exit strategy. I work with a lot of baby boomers that are retiring right now, and the price that I usually ask, what are you looking to get out of this? And every now and then they'll say something realistic, but more often than not, the number that they tell me is unrealistic in the beginning. And so we have to coach them and tell them where the market is, what it can bear. And that's a tough conversation, for us, but it's part of what we do, and helping them understand. And every now and then they'll want to test the market at a price a little bit too high. And then they're like, oh, you guys were right. and then we can adjust. But, it just makes more sense if they would just kind of listen to us and the market trends, and save a lot of time and headache, instead of testing the market at a number that we are advising them could be unrealistic. So
Welcome to Real Estate 101.
here you go.
Speaking of real estate and 1031 exchanges, that's my specialty, and
Yeah.
really talking to clients about 1031 exchange and how that can affect that exit strategy. How much conversation do you guys have to where the client is really thinking about the tax strategy, or is it still Aunt Marge that's managing the books?
I'll jump in on this one. I get this question a lot, and I'm sure Thomas does as well. But a lot of times people are afraid to sell because they don't want that tax hit. And a lot of people have heard 1031, but they don't necessarily understand it. And so I think it is important for somebody like Thomas and myself we're not trying to be the expert, but we have to know it exists, and we have to know it's out there. And I know at the last podcast, we talked about a little bit of cost segregation and how that's important. If we don't know that these, these tax savings are out there, then we're doing our clients a disservice. If they don't know that they can take advantage of these types of, rules and laws that are out there that are completely legal and can end up saving them a fortune in the grand scheme of things. And I know I've sent you several clients, and everybody's raved about, they say that you're a wealth of knowledge and you think of things that they would have never thought about. So, like we like to claim we're, the experts in our world. I know you are the expert in your field, and I hear it from my clients that have worked with you. So we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Send you that gift card.
We'll take a gift card, no problem.
Yep.
Thomas, do you want to comment on that, or is Melissa?
I would love to, and I'll echo what Melissa said about the value that you add to people in the space. We're really grateful for what you've been able to do for some of our clients that are looking for tax strategies, and what does the next chapter look like? What is a good investment for them? Like Melissa said, you don't want to go to a dentist for heart surgery, right? And so we don't want to pretend that we're heart surgeons, right? And so we want to partner with people like yourself that are the experts in that realm. And so we're extremely grateful for what you've been able to do for some of our clients that are looking to reinvest the capital or look at different tax strategies.
Thanks. Hey, I want to talk about private equity. That private equity came into this space, and they love recurring revenue, fragmentation, and stickiness, sealability, right? The car wash industry sort of has all three, but where does the model break?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think saturation, right? Like you mentioned earlier. I do think that private equity and the buyer universe has gotten a lot smarter over the years, right? And so while someone has, let's say, 100,000 members over a portfolio, is that going to go down quite a bit, or is there upside? What is the ticket price blended? Where do all those factors play in? And what are the barriers to entry with competition, and where are permits and portfolios popping up everywhere? I could think of too many examples, unfortunately, where it's mid-process, right? And here comes a car wash right next door, and so valuation changes in the 11th hour, and there's nothing you can do about it. And so that's why we've been so hyper focused on understanding the permits. And I think the private equity appreciates that as well. right? Because no one wants to waste time and money and resources and effort and everything. So being in front of that has been a huge push for us. But I do think private equity has gotten smarter around that. Instead of just, hey, let's ac- accelerate and consolidate at the fastest pace we can. Let's break the model per se. Let's be smart about it, and I think that's something that we're all excited about.
Right, because you don't want an AOL time merger type merger. Um, do
No.
you think that some buyers confused car wash with like the software industry and because of the subscription model?
I think
Melissa,
so.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. People think that it's easier than it's going to be. They think that they're just going to open up this car wash and miraculously, they're just going to make this great money. But yeah, you actually have to sell those memberships for the membership program to work, and you've got to have good service because just like anything, if you go to a bad restaurant, you have a bad experience, you're not going back. You go to a car wash, your car
Mhm.
wash isn't clean when you leave, or they scrape your car up and don't make it right. I mean, accidents happen, of course, but they're going to remember that, and they might even post a bad Google review or something along those lines that could really deter people from other people coming to your business. So I think that all of that's important, but it's not just like this AI world where everything's just going to come easy. It
Mhm.
takes, you got to grow that, and that takes, in my opinion, a person standing at that point of sale, greeting somebody, and helping them decide if they're going to get a membership that day. Because most people aren't going to pull up to the POS and decide, oh yeah, I'd love to buy this $29 membership when I can get a $8, $9 car wash. They're not going to think to do that. But if you have somebody there explaining it and giving that personal touch, they're obviously more apt to do that.
So does that mean that the family operators are finally getting the respect they deserve?
I would
I
think
think
so.
so.
I mean, there's something to be said about when you show up and they actually remember who you are or something like that. I mean, that's all part of business, and and no knock on the big guys too. They have employees there that take their job very seriously, and will give that same type of service even in some of the larger groups. So it's not, you don't just see it in the family mom and pa's. We might think it might be more common because you think, oh, they've got their, that's their livelihood. If this car wash isn't successful, it might be their only business and only source of revenue. Whereas, a group that owns maybe 50, 60 washes, they've got to have some good washes in there. But if they have a property that's not doing as well, they're going to be able to survive better than obviously somebody that only has like one or two.
So we live in a world of AI. AI is taken over. Are we going to get a robot that's going to be drying off the cars, or
Mhm. They're in
where do we
process.
where do
There
we
are
see the
plenty.
AI stepping in here?
We'll probably see that at the car wash show in a couple weeks.
Yeah, there are a lot. There is a lot of that in process, Herb, and you're right. There's robotics and all kinds of stuff that is coming out. It's exciting. With that being said, there's nothing like the face-to-face interaction. And
Agreed.
I understand profit margins are great in car washes, and I understand that you know it's unlike a QSR or um, sub 10% profit margin business. It is great. It is a great business. We love it. With that being said, you have to take care of the customer with face-to-face interaction. You have to be a good operator. You have to know how to drive memberships to compete in this business.
What about taking care of your employees?
Well,
Right?
it's such an intangible um, point that you mentioned that people neglect. Right? Is like you have to take care of your employees. You have to treat them, build a culture that shines through to the customer. And when you're showing up in um, overalls versus a clean outfit, and you're kind and respectful, and not shoving memberships down their throat, but you're actually just you care. That's from the leadership of the company and the culture that we build, um, which is a great point where you've got to treat your employees well.
When you are looking at a car wash to sell, Melissa, and you go there, you sit and you watch, and you see the employees, their interaction with the customers, their interaction with management, what kind of benefits do you see that those employees are getting? Is there a 401k? Is there health insurance? And Thomas, you probably answer this too, but how does that affect value and pricing?
Yeah, so whenever we're looking at these car washes, they'll send us what they're paying in payroll, and sometimes it's exceptionally high, and sometimes it's on the low end. And we do ask those questions. What's going on with this payroll? Is the owner taking a salary here? And things like that, because that is important. And you mentioned, treating the employees well. Are they bonusing their, these guys that are selling these memberships at the booth? And I've talked to a lot of owner operators, and it's very successful. People tend to like to be rewarded for their hard work. So some of these more successful washes are doing incentives for their people. They're taking care of their people. So not only are these guys getting some sort of a little extra tip money, but they're being rewarded for doing a good job. And I think that's important, and giving them that recognition that these people are seeking. And if you want to keep a long-term type manager, I have seen higher payrolls on these, different P&Ls, and asking the questions like, what are you paying them? And whenever they're paying usually the managers well, they're getting a better service. They're getting, that manager's taking that very seriously, because that's how they're feeding their family. It's not just about getting a clean car. These people are working to provide for, their family and their livelihood. So it's very important.
Thomas, I think a lot of people think that car wash employee is that high school kid who's working the summer, that college kid who's home for the summer. But I don't see that in my car wash. I see they've been there for a couple of years. What do you see?
Some of the best employees I've ever seen at car washes are people that got a second chance at life, and people brought them in and said, "Hey, look, this is our car wash. This is what we do," and they've built a lot of trust and loyalty, and they stay there for a long time, like the people that you've seen. And so,
what do you mean second chance in life? Tell me a little more about that.
I've seen companies that literally will pull people out of a rehab facility, or different places in life where
post-incarceration, things like that.
Correct.
Yeah, they've actually gone to the extreme measures to mentor people and bring them in and give them, a second chance, whether it's through the car wash or it's just, caring for them in a human way, that actually really pays off, and looking at the employees, and then there's some companies that want to train their employees to leave. They want to give them a great experience. They want to teach them hard work. They want to teach them how to clean the pit, to set the car, or to whatever it is, give them lessons in life to leave and go somewhere. But in that time, whether it's the high school kid that you mentioned, or, the college guy, in that time, they enjoyed it. They learned a lot. They tell their friends, this is the culture and the expectation, and you should go work there.
So let's talk about women in this space, right? Melissa, you're an anomaly. Veronica is. How do we get more women into car wash, whether it's out in front or in management? Thomas, are you going to hire more women in this organization?
I just know who not to mess with. That's for sure.
Yeah, we've definitely been working on getting more women involved, and there's a great association that I'm a part of, the Women in Car Wash. We do conferences twice a year, and you've actually spoke at one before. Even though you weren't a woman, we had you come. But it is nice to have that support group, because you are correct in saying we are few and far between. I will say it's growing since I started, and I would kind of equate it to when we go to the car wash shows. I mean, Veronica and I we would not have a lot of women with us, but now if you go, It has increased significantly. I mean, we've got women selling, insurance at the car wash trade shows, and that specialize literally in car wash insurance. And it's becoming more prevalent. And of course, as the space continues to grow and grow in popularity, but I will agree that we are a little bit of a smaller portion of the business, but it's all in fun, and I think that I love to bring women in and help mentor them as well, and get them involved. So I think that it's only a matter of time before we get equal with you guys.
And I think it's great because we do see more women involved here, from management, from being out in the car wash, even in the parts and equipment sales. Okay, so I'm going to have a little fun with you guys right now. All right. So Thomas, new baby. How's that challenge going? Right? Are you getting any sleep?
Oh man. No. But my wife's even worse. She's a champ, and she stays up through the night, and she's definitely a great partner, allowing me to get more rest than her. That's for sure.
That's good. That's good. That's awesome. So, Melissa, are you stepping in at times when Thomas isn't there because he's on baby duty?
I have had a few of his new agents calling me lately. But it's all a team effort, and as I mentioned, I love mentoring people, so I love stepping in and helping with anybody new or any questions. And we run Miracle Attlee as a team environment, so it just comes natural for all of us to kind of step in whenever things are needed. But I will say Thomas is not dropping any balls. He has been on a Zoom call with his baby in lap, which I loved. So don't put it past him.
So if we put you both in a time machine and dropped you into 1946, all right, Detroit was the heart of the auto industry. What would shock you most?
Ooh, definitely the membership component. Some of the stuff with AI, obviously, what some people have been able to leverage to drive traffic. And obviously just the equipment, the people that have been able to figure out the belts, the conveyor in terms of efficiencies, hydraulics, just different ways to make the car wash operate in the most efficient way. I think would have to be the most impressive thing if I was going to do a time machine.
What do you think has changed in the car wash space, or that has not changed in 70 years?
I would say probably that personal touch. I mean,
Yeah.
you need to have that. Again, it's a service experience. It was a service experience back then when they were using their water hose, whatever they were, to now, even though now there's a conveyor, and, back then you could only wash one car at a time. Now we're washing, your multiple cars are going through the conveyor, 3 to 5 cars. It's crazy what they can do now. So I think that also is a part of the big changes and the things that I think you would be shocked from. You said, I think 1946 to now, way different.
Way different. Way different. So I'm going to try to, Thomas is having a little bit of technical difficulty, it looks here, but that's okay. I'm going to fix that. So Thomas, if a car wash could talk, what would it tell the buyer during due diligence?
I'm not lying to you. I don't require any CapEx and no repairs. What else would it say? There's no competition coming anywhere nearby.
So is that where the buyers are, right? When you have a buyer on the hook and says, I want to buy a car wash, what are they most hoping to find? What are they looking for?
I think if you were to put yourself in the buyer's shoes, if there are foundational issues at the car wash, if there are parts of equipment that don't work, or there's things that are going to need to be fixed, which require the car wash to be down, that's lost revenue, right? And so identifying all of that going in to due diligence and creating a solution that works for everybody. And obviously, confidentiality is crucial in a transaction. How do you take care of the employees, and what are you going to do? What are the next phases? And so getting aligned there. And so I think just being able to identify any problems before they occur and create solutions before they're problems.
When I came into this space 5 years ago, I've learned so much. And buyers I've talked to, sellers I've talked to, but if I were a buyer coming to you, Melissa, what would the first thing how would you prepare me?
Yeah, so I think understanding the differences between different types of car washes is always step one. Because if somebody is that green, where they've seen the conveyor belts, they've also seen self-service, but what's the difference? What's the difference in the price point? What's the difference in what kind of profits they're going to make? So we need to really align with what their budget is, what can they afford, and that will help kind of dictate which type of car wash we're probably going to, be discussing in the future. But I think that would be the first step, is just a little bit of education. And understanding the industry, it would be important.
All right, getting back to some fun. What is one smell, sound, or visual that tells you this operator knows what they're doing?
Okay.
Smell, you can probably tell in the equipment room by the chemicals and what they're using in the back room and the equipment room. Sound, first thing that comes to mind is the vacuums. Are they cleaning their vacuums, and do you have good power? And then I think the other question was visual. What's the best visual? I would say from a visual perspective, a lot of times it's a layout of the car wash. How did they lay this car wash out? Looking from an aerial. How many pay stations, how many vacuums, is it laid out parallel to the street or perpendicular? When I think visual, I think that is almost as appealing as the aesthetic. So yeah, I think that would be my answer there.
Melissa, what's the most misunderstood piece of equipment in a tunnel?
Oh, let's see. Well, for me as a consumer, it's getting on the conveyor in the very beginning, because I got to make sure I line my car up properly. But once I get past that, I'm good.
So the alignment's important. Yeah.
Yes, I need that person telling me, come in, stay, move to the left, move to the right. So I'm telling you, AI can't replace everything. We need that person there.
So what's the most romanticized part of owning a car wash?
1,000 car day.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think pollen season or a good snow. I would say 1,000 car day for an operator is an exciting time.
What's the least glamorous part?
Cleaning the pit.
All right. All right. So I've got two questions that I have my cartoon nature, and Melissa, I'm going to be really easy on you. Thomas, be prepared. Melissa, if a car wash were a character in a TV show, is it a hero, the sidekick, or the money laundering villain?
I'm going to have to go with the hero.
Why?
I would say because it does build opportunity. You can be that hero for that family. If you run it correctly, it can really be a blessing. Also, all the tax benefits we've talked about, that a lot of people aren't even aware of. If somebody's facing a big tax bill and they go buy a car wash, they can write off with the cost depreciation. sometimes, well, they say it's 100%, but really in all reality, it's usually closer to like 80%. Because car washes are depreciating assets. There are parts of the car wash that need to be replaced. So it could be a real hero if it's saving somebody a massive tax bill, or creating wealth for the family.
Yeah, that's what I hear you saying. It's really creating that opportunity for a family, and it every community, every nationality, every family group can get into car wash and be successful. And that is one of the things I really love about being in this space and seeing people in this space. Thomas, I'm a big cartoon person. If you had to pick a cartoon character that describes you, who is it?
Oh man, do I have any options?
You have a worldwide option of any cartoon character.
This one stumped me last time too.
Cartoon character. Man.
I know who I'd say for him.
Go for it, Melissa.
I would say He-Man.
I was thinking Johnny Bravo.
Oh, it's better than Jimmy Neutron, I'll tell you that much.
There you go. Hey guys, I am so glad to have had you on here. Well, folks, that's a wrap. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more raw, real talk in the sandbox. It's been so much fun having you guys on. Stay on for a second and we'll talk in a minute, but have a great day. I'm looking forward to seeing how this turns out.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We had fun.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.